Yo, what's good, everybody? Happy Hump Day. Welcome in to Zeep Xanthorpe and Saffron. How you guys doing? Zeep Xanthorpe, you'd be interested in a sub rumble stream. Well then, maybe I've underestimated the the community a little bit. I was holding back on the sub rumbles, thinking that maybe I shouldn't do the sub rumbles on stream because a lot of people wouldn't even be able to hear most of the detail work. But hey, I can share some of my fun tips. Respect the gazelle. What's up, Paul? How you doing, homie? Tuning in from sunny Maryland on a 35-month streak. Appreciate you, dude, and your support. It is sunny here in Portland as well. It's going to be hot, hot, hot. It's going to be like 100 degrees today. And Javar is here. What's up, Javar? Gazelle was muted? Did anybody else hear the gazelle? Because I heard it. Your low all week is 98. Ooh. Where are you again, Zeep? Low all week is 98. Yowza. Yeah. New Mexico, that's right. That's right. At least it's dry, right? I probably said something like that the last time you told me how hot it was. Breaking records this week. Oof. All week. I feel like everyone is, and yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Speaking of weird, how about this music? Yeah, no humidity. We have lots of humidity here, so whenever it gets hot, it's muggy. We were out watching fireworks last night. Everyone's dressed like it's the Bahamas, you know? Yeah, pretty wild stuff. Anyway, I think I'm gonna make some sci-fi sounds today. Although we were just kind of discussing the sub rumble thing, and I can play you some of the sub rumbles that I've been making. It's for cinematic applications more than it is musical applications, but the same types of concepts still apply. And I feel like it's one of those little pockets of sound design that is fairly wide open. Like, there's so many different things you can do to conjure up really interesting subfrequency and lesser heard, mostly felt movement elements. Paul, you're teaching HTML to folks, huh? How about that? So, try to think about where to start if I'm just gonna like kind of run through sub rumbles really quick. One of my favorite secret sauces, or workflows, I should say, is to find a tasty bass patch, right? Something with some low frequency content. And then start playing with a combination of movement and saturation. So movement can involve filter modulation. It can include delay and reverb, even distortion as long as it's being modulated. And then everything after that gets passed through more saturation. Highly depending upon dependent upon the type of sound that you're trying to create is the type of saturation that you're applying. So something that sounds really dirty and busy is going to be some pretty heavy, gnarly distortion, right? And something that's like really smooth is probably going to be something really simple like overdrive. And it's really just to help you hear frequencies, because it can be kind of hard to hear subfrequencies. So here's one. And we can dip into some of this kind of concept today as we're working on some sci-fi sounds too, because I want to build some environmental spaces. I was thinking maybe some engine rooms today. So you can hear, like if you listen carefully to this one, you can hear some detuning and some difference in the amount of saturation that's being applied over time. There's obviously some filter manipulation happening to get the pulse going. So yeah, this is one of those things that it could probably be pretty interesting for a matter of minutes for a lot of people, but I feel like if we went for a couple of hours on subrumples, most people would be like, yeah, peace out. But it's really cool. Just what you can do with the lowest, like 200 frequencies or so and some saturation filter. So yeah, these are much more in line with like, the type of low end work that you hear in pictures like, Interstellar and Inception, Tenet, those types of things. Uh, yeah. So let's make some rooms and stuff, huh? Let's do a variety of synths today. No Neil? Of course I know Neil. All right, so let's start off with the easy one. Let's start off with some serum, since most everybody out there has serum. Building any kind of generator or motor is actually way easier than a lot of people would expect. You can start with just a steady tone, or you can work off of the oscillation cycles themselves to create the feeling of an engine. Because what is an engine doing? It's, there's a series of oscillations happening. So let's turn this back up. Yo, hello. How you doing? Alu is saying, hey, just want to say real quick thanks again for the last feedback. It helped me realize I've got a problem getting the upper half of the frequencies balanced and at a good volume. Now to lurk. Man, isn't it nice when you can actually identify what something is? It's like getting a diagnosis from a doctor. Like a whole bunch of things are just like, oh, that's why. And then you can actually start digging in. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about using oscillation cycles first, okay, to generate the type of engine sounds and whatnot that we normally hear. So if we just simply go down, you can hear the rate of the oscillation cycles, and with a sawtooth, it's really easy, right? Because you've got that transient nature to that big jump from 100 to 0 in there. But what about these shapes that aren't quite as simple as a sawtooth or a square? Let's take this guy. It's really quiet, so that'll help us kind of show off the importance of saturation. And it's also, got a a bit of a audible oscillation cycle as well. So then the next thing that's going to come into play is change over time, because nothing is going to be super consistent without any kind of wavering. So adding some kind of an LFO modulation to a filter is a really easy way to kind of cash in on this. And you can also kind of set your modulation depth so that it's not really touching all the way to the bottom or the top, right? So it's a bit of a bandpass kind of effect. And let's just play this. So I'm just going to take this way down, and we'll just unsync it too, probably. For right now, I'm just going to leave this at a 4 bar. I'm going to put just a little bit of resonance on there. Okay, now I'm just going to kind of back off of this peak here. Okay, so that's going to kind of translate into the, there's this kind of secondary cyclical nature to a lot of different motors and engines. Now you can add an additional layer of noise if you like there. And since we're kind of biasing our efforts today on the sci-fi sound of the spectrum, we can add a couple other little common layers. A phaser or a flanger is oftentimes employed. I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of that just for wiggle. All right, so before I go any further, I just want to add some voices. Maybe we'll stick with 3. We'll go with 4. We're not going to want to detune them from each other very much. I'm actually going to bias this more to the sides than I am the center. That way sounds that kind of enter into the space can still have a really sharp focal point to them. All right, so let's also now add some distortion. Let's put that after the flanger this time. You can kind of hear that there's like this kind of unbalanced nature to it, like it's it kind of starts to break up here and there. Let's add a tremolo to this guy. I'm gonna zero out the phase, so this is mostly just like volume automation at this point. And let's hear this at 1/64th. Okay, so this is actually pretty cool where we are right now. Like this would be a good sound. Like if you were to walk into an engine room of a spaceship or something, right? Maybe it's got like a warp engine, right? But it's also not very believable. So we got to wrangle this in a bit. Fed, welcome in. This is actually a sound where I might pop up a few octaves and bounce a secondary instance, because listen to this. Just imagine this kind of reverberated out, maybe a little bit of comb on it. It's really, really good. All right, let's drop back down in octaves. Okay, cool. So now that we've got like this kind of basic sound here, let's go in and grab a second filter. I was just mentioning some comb. Let's explore that. You can hear that kind of tinnitus chirp in there already. Beefy. And start pushing this resonance up so we can get a little squeal out here. Oh, that's badass right there. Some grimy stuff. Hey, Liv is here. Zeep, it is just a matter of practice and play, man. So, I do get this question a lot. How do you get the kind of unsettling, unbalanced, um, uh, like kind of unsettling drones and pads and stuff that you hear and stuff like Dune and these kind of left to center sound design heavy kind of soundtracks. Um, I feel like Zimmer has kind of ended up on this side of the spectrum, which is something a lot of people probably could not have predicted. But oftentimes, it's just going to be pairing two notes, two sequential notes together, or keys together, and then you let the natural beating occur, and it ends up canceling out a bunch of stuff and accenting a bunch of stuff just naturally. Going back to the conversation about sub rumbles, that's another one of the things that I like to do. Because listen to that, it's so hard to figure out exactly what's happening there. I could take down that resonance. That's pretty badass right there, that sound. Lots of inharmonics. Roku Size here. How you doing, Roku? Saffron's asking, I wonder if you could take these style of sounds into a modular Euro rack. Yeah, sure. Yes, Zeep Xanthorpe, it's a couple of things. There is phase cancellation happening, but not just from the notes being so low. I'm playing two notes right next to each other. Rokusai says detuning and inharmonics can make very vomit-inducing experiences. Yeah, right. Like, okay, so we're developing these kind of sci-fi environments, right? So imagine, if you will, the sound of an engine room, right, on an enemy ship, like the Borg or something, compared to the USS Enterprise, right? The engine room in the Enterprise is going to be pretty even keel, right? It's going to be pretty nice, maybe even almost beautiful, right? Very stable and something to strive for, right? And then you get into this alien ship and you're like, I'm going to die. Like there's some sort of voodoo magic that they're tapping into for their energy. Like I do not understand. Yeah, Roku size saying kind of what I was saying earlier, just one oscillator. This one right here is a little wonky, right? Intentionally, because I've taken it up to four unison voices, and then I've focused the energy off to the sides of the sound instead of the two center voices. Mostly just because I want this to be this environment where other sound effects are going to be really, really crispy and clear in that space, right? So any kind of telemetry or computational sounds or something that might be occurring. So we'll bounce some of these. We'll just record some of these. And the easiest way to do that and stay really productive is we'll just couple quick things here. I'm going to put in a MIDI region, and I'm just going to keep this at 120 BPM for right now. And we're going to set this to about 32 bars, which is about a minute runtime. Minute 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open up a little piano roll here. And we're just going to enter in our notes that we want to bounce. Oh, look at that. All nice and tidy already. And then we just bounce in place. So we're going to run through a few different inharmonic key combinations, and then we'll move on. I'm not really worried about what kind of identity I'm going to assign to these sounds yet, right? I'm more interested in developing a palette of sounds that can be used in a universe or a galaxy, right? That sounds kind of coherent and consistent, and there's like some continuity, um, although also great uniqueness. But then I can start to kind of suss out, okay, well, this sounds more mechanical in nature, and this sounds more organic or interdimensional or whatever. Like, what the heck is a portal? What's a weapon? What's a tool? Oh, Roku's giving away all the good secrets too. Definitely saturate after the space. Sounds like a force field or an evil lightsaber. Yeah, exactly. So cardio. So here's my next point. This is why I don't want to assign kind of the identity or the purpose of the sound too early, is because if I do that, then I stop thinking pretty fluidly about what a sound could be. Now, let's say I get a sound that I really like this one. Let's say I really like this. Wait, why isn't that playing? There we go. So I really like this sound, and it is obviously including some sort of an energy source that's not known to us. So therefore, I'm going to base an engine upon it. I'm gonna base a couple of different weapons. I'm going to base some travel technology on it, right? So I can take snippets of this one sound, and I can put it into like a shaper box or something, right? Where I can very fluidly play with. Um, Filter modulation with a great deal of resonance and stuff to get like sweeps and swipes and zaps and beeps and bloops and stuff out of it. And since it's all coming from the original source sound, then they all kind of have this shared intrinsic core quality to them, which makes it believable that they're all kind of using the same type of energy, for instance, right? So you can have a force field and an evil lightsaber out of the same sound. Yes, Roku. Yes. Bounce it, slice it, import it for further FM destruction. Yes, exactly, cardio. So it's kind of akin to playing with Foley or drum sounds, even, right? Like when you find a sweet spot with a certain type of processing and a certain type of drum or percussion sound, you're going to sit there and you're going to play with that for a little while, right? So you can develop like a whole kit out of it, so you can do some fills or whatever. Um, yeah, it's really just about finding that kind of voice. It really is. Absolutely. What about engines using squirrel tech? Ah, I think maybe we need a sample of a squirrel today. Okay, so let's just run through really quickly what it looks like then to get like 10 or 20 source sounds out of one simple little pad like this, right? So I'm just going to bounce this in place, and we'll call this force one. And then I'm just going to play inside of the piano roll for just a sec here. And it's... yeah, like that's good. Let's drop these two down a couple. Yeah, it's pretty good. Although the resonance is a little high on this comb filter here, so I'm actually going to take that down because we don't need the sound of crickets. It's a little bit better. Yeah, so we just do this a few times. We don't need to do it like 24 times or anything. That's pretty guttural. I don't know if that one's going to fly or not. We'll just do like 5 of these. Because so much of the rest of this stuff can happen as like a secondary process. You know, like Roku was saying, you can resample or whatever. This one's got some interesting tension in it. All right, and I also said that I wanted to go up high on this one just to kind of see what we can get. So let's go up. We're gonna try single notes, and we're also gonna try some of this inharmonic natural beating stuff. Roku says, "Bam! OhmLab community album name: Squirrel Tech by Ohmies." Yeah. Oh, and Roku's also saying, for all you geeks out there, Melda Production is giving away their dynamic EQ for free. That's awesome. That's fantastic. All right, so let's go way up. This is gorgeous. This is gorgeous. We'll get a little reverb and delay in there. This is like classic Star Trek right here. Totally. So we're going to bring that up. All right, so we'll call this one Force High 01. And we'll just kind of play in like the 4 to 6 octave register for a minute. Lovely. Let's grab that. Oh, Babylon 5 was so good. So good on the sound front. They were doing some really interesting things. Um what was the other one? Cuz that wasn't the Henson one, right? That wasn't. What was the Henson one? Um or is it? Is that the one that had the backing of the Henson folks? I can't remember. Okay, this one's good. It's going to have a nice little taste of hysteresis in there. Farscape. Thank you, Javar. Thank you. Yeah, as soon as you say the name, you can see like the blue faces and like all the costume stuff. That's totally in line with the studios. Let's do another one, but let's move away from this inharmonic jam and just go single notes for a bit. That's fine. And again, like I'm so not concerned about, is this the best sound? Is this the one that I'm actually going to use? Is this going to stick to the wall when I throw it? This is more just about, let's get sounds that can be part of a larger palette. This is good. All right, I guess if we did some solo voices up high, we can do a couple down low. So let's just take this guy. What's going on here? Note. Okay. What in the world is going on? It won't let me make a note. That's weird. Weird logic bug. Once you transpose enough times inside of a piano roll, sometimes it's just like, screw you. All right, I'm still hearing just a little bit too much. That guy. A little bit better. So this is a low 4/6. I think I just called it force. And let's do one more lower single note here. You can even see the rhythmic nature, the oscillation cycles there. That's beefy. All right, let's bring one more out of this set here. Let's go. Sure, we'll stay right in the middle here. All right, and we'll call this 8, and that's good. And let's get back to our synth here for just a moment. Turn off this tremolo. It's true, Roku. It's true. What you're saying is right. Like when you get through watching the whole thing, you feel like you've watched a masterpiece. It's true. I don't think it's on Netflix now. All right, let's I'm going to start something new here. And let's go for a sine wave this time. I'm just going to look for something that's like kind of simple, round, slightly detuned. I'm just going to build a little bubble around it. We're going to saturate the heck out of it in different ways. So when it's down low, it's going to feel super, super transparent, which is really good for environmental space. We can add in a little noise here, or we can wait. I'm going to wait because I'd rather bake in different types of textures and use the same source sound again and again. But hey, I'm a nerd, so let's also go ahead and add just something a little off right off the bat, like maybe just a little bit of ring mod. Beady beady. I can never forget Buck Rogers, Paul. It was definitely one of my favorite shows from childhood. I watched it religiously, and I burned through a couple, maybe even a few, different VHS tapes that I was constantly recording the different episodes onto. For those of you um, who feel like you aren't all that informed about like classic sci-fi sounds and how they're actually made, ring modulation is a huge, huge component of this. Amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, and ring modulation can get you pretty much anywhere in the realm if you're using them right at the source state here. That actually feels pretty good as is. I'm going to add a little saturation to it. We're going to keep this really simple. Maybe we can just build our own wave shaper really quick. Okay, let's build B. All right, so we can move between these two states. And I was talking before about how the movement can come from volume automation, or it can come from saturation, or it can come from filter modulation. And this is just going to be a little drive modulation. It's just some wave shaping, and we'll set this to go every 2 bars or so. So that way it feels like there's kind of this undulating force to the whole thing. The other thing we can do is we can offset this just slightly, right, and give it just a little bit of a shape. Because when things spin slightly off axis in space, it's a little bit more believable for some reason. Maybe it's because where we come from. Who knows? Let's compress. Actually, I'll probably do this outside of the synth because I never really like this. Lastly, let's put a little filter action on this guy. Like a 12. I'm just taking off the highs. I'm going to add a second LFO. We'll go bipolar. We'll just add a little bit more high and low. It'll be over the course of 3 bars. So it'll be offset. Yo, Danny's here. Oh, Roku. I feel you, homie. So this just shaves off a little bit of detail and rounds it out, and then it adds just a little bit of detail here and there every 3 bars or so. And we can offset in just a slightly different way from the other one. So they're kind of inverse of each other. Okay, so let's play up high and play down low and see what we got. Let's go up a few octaves here. Good. 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 Okay, and down low. Now the nice thing about building your source patch with ring mod is that it's so easy to arrive at new sounds. So that's at 15 hertz. Here's at 127. Right, and you can hear we've moved away from engines and generators, right? We've moved up now into like fields, like force fields, tractor beams, portals. Right? There's this inherent tension as well from this kind of offset layering here. And then you get up into the upper frequencies, and like I feel like Star Trek taught us so much in this space, right? Like, here's all of your heady stuff. Like, this is how it's impacting you mentally or whatever. Really good just for the idea of like a force, right? This thing that's felt but not seen. I'm going to take this back down to 15. We're going to bounce a few. And we'll do some that are pretty coherent and straightforward, just single notes. And we'll make it a little bit more inharmonic as we move along. And these are all going to be somewhat quiet. And we will beef them up. Yo, Drummer Boy, welcome in. For those of you just joining, we're talking about the finer nuances of sound design when it comes to sub-rumbles, generators, engines, general sci-fi goodiness, and how you build the continuity from the type of energy that's being used, or the power source, if you will, and then translating that into environmental spaces and gadgets and tools and whatnot. So everything feels kind of cohesive inside of a larger production. Okay, so we're going to keep moving really quickly like we did last time. So we're just going to keep going with the bounce in place trick here. We'll call this one, where do we stop? Force 8, force 9. So we'll get just a few that are single notes. And if you follow this workflow, you can easily end up with, I don't know, in an hour, if you weren't actually talking to anyone while you were working. Ooh, that one's kind of cool. The sharps sound good at this sound. I'd say you could easily get 35, 40 things bounce like this, maybe even more if you're keeping your synthesis really, really simple. And then the sky's the limit from there. You could easily, in the next hour, you could get 3 iterations of each one of those done with just applying simple filter modulation schemes or saturation schemes, reverberating everything, saturating again. One afternoon, you could have several hundred different sounds, and you kind of go through and you kind of start to cherry pick and build your family tree of sounds, if you will, for your space. All right, let's go up high for a couple. And then we'll do some kind of unsettling stuff. Where did we leave off on these? Number 5. So this will be number 6. And let's get one up like maybe 2 more octaves if it's not too piercing. That's pretty good. We'll call that number 8. Now we're going to add in a second inharmonic note. Velocity blasters, welcome in. Roku Science, add modular grid from Bitwig and you become Roku, right? Right? All right, so we're going to add a second inharmonic note up here. And that's going to generate just the natural beating. And you can hear it pretty clearly up at this upper frequency. You've got the modulation from the ring mod. And then you've got the beating. That's really nice. It's all just kind of naturally occurring. All right, so this is going to be number 9 on that front. Yeah, Roku, I was saying this earlier. I'm going to bake in the texture separately on these. That way I can have multiple applications out of the same source sound. Right, I can have some that's a little bit more organic noise based and some that's a little bit more digital. And then I'll probably run a bunch of this stuff through FM. And And I really don't want to limit myself in regards to, um, just having the same thing occurring um, in the same spots as I'm reprocessing these. Ooh, warning. This is like some sort of alien hive kind of thing here. Okay, so this is 10. Get another one of these that's a little bit more mid-high in nature. It's good. It's a little resonant. All right, let's drop back down low again. Yeah. Cool. We'll do this one. Where do we leave off? We left off on force 11, so this becomes force 12. Yeah, Roku, my favorite way to start baking in or building the noise profiles for this type of stuff is Reactor. I usually turn to a couple of different ones. I really like Screwwell, especially for the digital type stuff. It's really easy to manipulate in real time and capture a whole bunch of recordings that are pretty unique. And then the other thing I really like doing is using something like Grain Cube, where I can load in multiple types of textures and then manipulate those textures with time and space, right? Just through the random engine. Really, really awesome way to kind of up the value of the textures of the sounds. Call this one 13. And I think I'm gonna maybe do one more of these, and we're gonna just change the ring mod position on these guys. Oh man, now this is like some serious power stuff here. You know those scenes where you're introduced to some kind of alien power, kind of power source. Roku, you stick to just your mic for noise. Ah. Hmm. Yeah, I feel that. Oh, interesting, Paul. Interesting. Industrial gold, you say? All right, I'm gonna get this one. It's a little odd and uncomfortable already. That's a little uniform. I'm going to go back to a single note here for a bit. That one's simple. I like that. 13, 14, 15. Number 15. Sure, I'll take this one. All right, let's get second note into play on a couple of these. Eh. All right, this is a high force. This is number 12. Ooh, that's so tiny and delicate. Kind of like that. This is number 13. All right, I think I want to move away from serum and do something else. Although we didn't actually capture any of these high rates, and we should. We really should. Let's just capture a few here. Let's see. Where are we here? Oh, that's unexpectedly kind of flat sounding. Hmm. Wow. They're really just kind of naturally textured. It's cool. All right, so this is going to be a high, I guess. So what are we doing? That's 14. And I really liked what I was hearing. Just a couple notes down. these natural beats. We might be able to use that one. Filter out some of those highs. 15. Dip down a little lower. These are perhaps a bit more in the realm of just a drone. But where are we here? Force 16, 17. Let's get down low on this one. Oh, a little too good not to use. This one's high 416. Yeah, it is kind of ping-pongy, huh? It's all naturally occurring too. It's just the beating. It's just a whole bunch of cancellation. Oh, wild. We'll take that one too. Ah! Oh, I thought I quit. That was weird. That must have been user error. High force 17. And let's just see what happens when we go up on this guy. You are absolutely correct, drummer boy. And you know what? Look at me, dude. Flying loosey goosey. I haven't saved this at all. What is this? This is gonna be. It's gonna go into the sci-fi stuff. Oh, it looks like I've actually moved that directory onto the archive. So create it fresh here, sci-fi, and this one will be. Good question. What is this one? Spaces, maybe? Something like that. And we'll just call this day 1. This is another high one. 18. All right, let's get into some processing maybe. I'll get back into some more synthesis here in a bit. Let's go and listen to some of the first stuff we made today. Oof. Oof. Okay, we were also talking about needing to layer in some texture and stuff. Which we're absolutely going to do, but I can already hear some kind of bandpass type ear candy in here if we were to... Yeah, I'm just gonna, just really quick, this is just a quick down and dirty. Oops. Let's do like a... Dub, welcome in. Lou D, welcome in. Playing mad scientist over here right now. I'm just gonna add a little saturation to this guy. How about we do decap? Switch our circuit here. Lou D. Yeah, we can listen to something, homie. Cook up some fresh stuff. Hey, this one feels pretty good. Yeah, okay, so processing is fun. But before we're going to get into all of that, we should probably have some fun in Reaktor. Let's just start with a fresh track down here. Make some noise. And we will bounce in maybe 2-minute increments or so. We're bouncing kind of 1-minute increments of these final stems, I think. So maybe we'll go for 2 minutes each on these noise tracks. Need some thoughts and inspiration? Oh yeah, right, Roku? Right? Rokusai is saying, these types of drones always make me high. I often lose myself when making them 4 hours later and forget the food in the oven. Right? Oh, it's Cajun mac and cheese now. Let's see. Discord. That's what I'm going for. Oh, Javar, I saw your message, by the way. I'm ruminating. All right, let's listen to see what Nick has made. Let's get this open. Oops. Nope. This one. Trevor Boy, I love that. Art for your sound pack, Rokusai. Just a blackened lump of what would have been for dinner. Oh, man. You know, Javar, this might be an interesting one to open up to the community as well. Um, this conversation is going to happen so much more in the coming weeks when everyone starts to gets to see what new tools are being built with all of the generative music models, right? Um, yeah, because it's quite wild. It's quite wild just how good everything is getting very quickly. I know the one that we're building is, I don't know, it feels like it's easily 10 times better than everything else out there already. Um, but I think it's going to mean that people are going to be making stuff um, at just a whole nother clip soon. And what do we do with all of that stuff? So, for those of you out there making music, especially, longer form cinematic type stuff, where are you putting all your stuff? Have you started to formulate a plan of like what comes next? Yeah, Javar, I hear that. I think that the questions kind of remain the same. And I think that those who choose not to dabble in AI will have some marketplaces kind of emerge as hero spaces for them specifically, right? Like, hey, we only have human content here, 100% guaranteed. Um, and you can kind of dig into those marketplaces as they bubble up. But I am interested to hear what everyone is thinking in regards to, their productivity, what they're going to be doing with a lot of the stuff that they're cranking out. Because to be fair, like a lot of the stuff that a lot of us would have put into licensing and made decent coin off of for quite some time, like that landscape is going to shift pretty quickly. Um, Drummer Boy, you should drop your links. You should drop your links. Dub, I value human error as well. Um, yeah, and I see a ton of inherent value in AI stuff, and I really think that it's about how people go about building their tools that are going to kind of largely shape what comes next. Um, but the one thing that will always be true, regardless of what kind of change is coming to us, is uh, what kind of crafty cleverness can you conjure up to stay relevant and get ears on your stuff? Javar, um, I'm still formulating my response, but part of what I know I would love to see um, from you is kind of twofold. One, I really like the podcast concept you were building, right? The audio play kind of thing. And in a way, I think that AI could help you in that, but it would be more on the story building side of things, right? It could help you create little forks in the road and, little tangents, adjacent content, if you will, that could occur in some of that episodic stuff. And of course, imagery. But the other thing that I could see you doing pretty well with is kind of similar to what I've been saying to Andremia for quite a while, which is um, like a radio station, right? Like this immersive listening experience, more likely on YouTube than anything else, simply because your stuff has such a deep, immersive kind of cinematic quality to it to begin with, right? And if you're putting it up on a platform like YouTube, then I think it kind of leaves open the gate of you can have whatever kind of imagery associated with that content that you like. And, just the intrinsic magic that happens when you're putting audio to picture, you could hear the same thing against different visual states and have completely different experiences, and vice versa, right? You can put very different sounds into the same scene and you can have a totally different reaction to it. So I just kind of see it as one of these places where um, guys like you who have the ability to create really immersive and unique original stuff very quickly um, could have this kind of ever expanding listening experience um, kind of thing from it. Those are kind of like my knee-jerk reactions to it. But yeah, I want to know. I want to know what everybody's been thinking about with all of the AI stuff coming online and what they're thinking in regards to getting stuff out. Drummer Boy, cool. We'll check those out too. All right, let's listen to this thing from Ludi. Ooh, dark. You can't hear? Oh, hold on a second. Let's see what might be up with that. Well, I didn't even need to go too far down a rabbit hole to figure that one out. You hear that okay? Maybe that's why we didn't. Maybe that's why Paul didn't hear Gazelle earlier, but I did. All right.
know where to begin or even really what to do. Because no matter what I do, every time I get ahead, it's like I go back. So for right now, I'm just gonna let this one ride, and 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 ride. I'm just gonna let this one 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 ride.
Yeah, I like the feel of this one. It's cool. It's got a um it feels German. Um yeah, there's something different about this one than what you usually bring. It's not just the dialogue that you're using it in there either, which is great, and it's like something that you're working around really well. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Um, at 233, I think I want a different kind of build in there entirely. That snare one just felt kind of plain. Um, just in general, feedback on the entire thing, I would say an atmospheric layer would be really cool. It doesn't have to be completely persistent throughout, but something that you could kind of build and play with for emotional effect, just as much as the immersive qualities. Transition effects and fills, I think, would really kind of help the flow and the funk factor for all of this. But I think that the fills, if they were a bit more on the fun side, um, I think it would keep this whole thing really super upbeat and vibey, even though it's got like this kind of dark appeal to it. 354, I really like this moment, and I dig the delays and all the feels. but it does feel predictable. Like all of the delays feel very kind of straight and on the grid. So maybe some creative filter play on one element, and then one of the delayed elements, maybe it gets a more creative delay scheme. And then just in general, as far as long form modulation to keep the interest up in the place in the sections that are a bit more repetitive, just some long form modulation on some filter, and maybe some detuning of some things. But I like the sounds in your palette. I really dig the dialogue sample. Yeah, it's definitely got a strong Berlin vibe to it, right? Um, yeah, it definitely looks like Eric is vibing with what I'm putting here. I hope you do as well. Um, yeah, this got people's attention. Folks are digging this one. Similar thoughts. Cool, cool. Yeah, this is a good one. I like it. I wish I could put my finger on what it is that's different, but it is eluding me right this moment. Maybe it's the rumble. I don't know, but I do like this. Um, Eric. And then we've also got it was a maybe from Ithaful and got some stuff from Drummer Boy. Did you link us to that stuff, Drummer Boy? All right, let's listen to Eric, and then we'll check that out. All right. Deus Domine. Hello, Eric. How the heck are you? I'll explain this last one more here. Let's just talk through it. Eric, this is good. I really like the build and transition there at 1 minute. Some filter play on at least one more element during that intro would be great, I think. 126, that little synth fill. It's awesome. It'd be nice to draw a little more attention to it as it happens, and it's not something that I would encourage like or recommend like across all of those little sonic embellishments because there's a lot going on there. But every once in a while, just kind of grabbing one and just making it shine, like literally kind of dipping down the rest of everything as this thing just kind of appears and goes across the soundscape really quickly, and then it's gone. But to actually affect the rest of the mix in doing so would be kind of cool. It'd be kind of a cool thing to explore in a track like this. It's obviously sound design heavy, and you really want to draw a lot of, um, attention to the different sounds on display. I think to do that, though, you're going to need to introduce more and greater change over time in regards to volume levels, which I kind of got into here at the end. At 202, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is kind of like what am I trying to say here? Uh, like a little string out, right? Like a sound design string out, like a demo reel or something. Um, but with all the ear candy floating around, some added subtle cinematic transition sound effects would be really nice. Some of them could sync up with some of those embellishments, right? Think about this. You've got like this tiny little delay stab kind of synth fill that happens one moment. What if you had just a tiny little reversal going into it, right? Maybe it's the sound that went across the soundscape last. It's actually just reversed and sped up by two or something like that, right? I'm sure you could probably find some really fun ways to kind of help move those things in the timeline, but just little whooshes, suckbacks, textured reversals, that type of thing. Really nice moment, 247. It really feels good. Maybe a touch more decay on the vocal reverb in this section. There's something that feels a little bit more, I don't know, ethereal or something happening in this moment. Might be kind of cool just to add a little punctuation on that. 305, really dig the vocal chop sample being used rhythmically in this moment, and I think it'd be great to hear more of this in general. Um, the idea that popped up into my head as we were listening to it was, what if you actually grabbed a different vocal slice and you used it as part of this reoccurring um, groove, right? It becomes a rhythmical element in a larger groove, but it gets swapped out each time, right? It's one more thing for the listener to track. Each time you can come up with something like that, you get a ton more listens to a track. All right, so 356, more dynamic change-ups, greater difference between the elements over time, volume-wise. And this section right here is a really good example. What I meant by that is, okay, let's take your top three prioritized sounds. They're all pretty close to each other relationally in volume level and presence, right? That can be changed, right? If we're going to revisit that kind of lineup between these guys in a similar section a few different times in the track, change up the order of prioritization. Give one of them a greater sense of prioritization in the very first one, flip the script on the second one, flip it again on the third. Just one more way in which we can be brought a bit closer to each one of the individual sounds over time. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about the ear candy and the little fills that you've got going on, and the ability to call more attention to those here and there. One way in which you can achieve both of these things at the same time is kind of using the occurrence of one of these little fills or bits of ear candy as sort of a transition cue for a change in volume balance, right? A little thing comes flying across the stereo field, and when it leaves, man, isn't that interesting? That line, which was below the chord, is now above the chord on the other side. You know what I mean? Just using the different moving parts, because you've got a lot of them, to help keep other movement happening. All right, so hope that all makes sense. And sorry if it was a little rambly. And do I have example of those cinematic transitions? Yeah, yeah. It can easily be any sound. It's more just the way in which you use the sound that becomes kind of cinematic, right? So let's just grab a sound really quick and just look at this. Because I think everyone will probably appreciate this. It could just be a drum, actually. So let's just grab a drum. Let's do a snare. All right, so we've got this snare. This is absolutely not a fit for your track, so let's make it fit. Let's give this a little tail here. All right, so it's really loud. And so what I want to do is I want to reverse that, right? And then once it's reversed, I might just bounce it just to kind of have a decent save state. So now it sounds like this. And I don't like all of that high end that it's got on there. And I also think that it's also like just really fast in general. So I'm just going to stretch this out a bit. Yeah, okay. And maybe I'm just going to add a little tremolo. And maybe this is something that would kind of increase the depth over time. But let's dip into like a 16th triplet here. It's fairly cinematic. And maybe we're going to disclose more of this high end as we go through it. Right, anything can start to become what you want it to be or what you need it to be, right? You can absolutely start to play around with timing, something like that, right? A little delay on there. Right, so these things become what you need them to be, like I was saying before, but when you're playing with them, when you're creating them, if you're doing it in context, right, not in a silo, right? You're not like looking for a specific type of transition sound. Grab something from your arrangement, like a snare or a clap, or like I was saying before, like one of those synth fills or something like that, right? Reverse it, speed it up, stretch it out, reverberate it, put some delays on it, saturate it. You're a clever little monkey. You're going to figure this out, right? But that's how you do it. That's how you keep it. Yeah, exactly. Resample some of the synths or claps. Exactly. That's exactly it. So that provides the continuity, right? So everything kind of adheres and aligns naturally because it's all from the same stuff. And that keeps us super interested. Like that keeps us invested. Um, not just like interest wise, but emotionally too. Um, and the the idea of like swapping out a vocal chop in each section. I've referred to this as the Steve Miller effect for a really long time. It's way outdated. Like this was a much better analogy like 15 or 20 years ago. Um, but Steve Miller did this thing that kept him on repeat. Like people would listen through the tracks again and again because he'd slip in one or two things that were tied to timing in his songs. What's the really famous one? Take the money and run. Okay. Once you figure it out, it's easy. You kind of crack the code. It's whenever he mentions a place or a location, there's some clapping. But when you're listening to these songs for the first time, you're trying to remember where the clapping comes in. You clap at the wrong time when you're singing along with the track. Anyway, it got way more action, right? And he realized that and made it part of the formula. But the more times you can do that in a track like this, it gives people something else to grab onto. So Zeep says, I got one of the best transition sounds from just really fucking up a vocal, and it was really fun to make. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so before we check out what Sign Out and Siren made, Um, Drummer Boy, where are your links? Yeah, exactly, Eric. For the dynamic range stuff, the dynamic change ups. Yeah, it can just be it be like really really simple volume automations. Da, 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 da. All right, Drummer Boy, where is this? Where is this? Oh, it's going to take me to a browser link. Where is it on mine? It's not in the public feedback. It's where? Under things to share, public sound design. There we go, public sound design. Thank you. There we go. Okay. So Drummer Boy saying, been working on an anime sound effect pack on and off for a few months. These are the first two tests that really showed some promise. A lot to do yet, but thought I'd share and see what people think. Oh, fantastic. Um, Here, and just really quick, I should probably drop that in there for Eric. Okay. Let's see here. Anime Explosion. Let's check this one. Hear that again. Sign out. I missed you guys when I'm not around. I feel you. This one again. I like the second one of the two. It feels like the texture and distortion and everything in there is a bit more in line with the presentation and proximity of the sound. Like it sounds like the tail of all of this, like there's some distance. Like maybe this is a battle that's happening on some kind of plateau around a big canyon or something like that. So these things kind of dissipate into space off in the distance. And this first one has some kind of higher frequency stuff that seems a little closer in proximity, which makes it harder um, to kind of fall into. So I'd say the second one, the best thing that you can do for this kind of stuff is to put it into context, visually speaking. So just finding little clips. In fact, that's what I love about the remote video feature inside of Audio Design Desk. You can just toss any YouTube link in there, right? And it'll just pull in the video for you, and you can start syncing your sounds to whatever's on the screen. So I would do that. I would find little clips, just little clips. And if you're having a hard time finding little clips, you could even go on to uh, Twitch, even, right? And grab some stuff from gameplay or um, what was I about to say? Trailers. Trailers are oftentimes the better way to find high quality imagery to work with in short duration format. So you don't have to download. Yeah. Yeah, it does sound a bit like Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, less blown out, Drummer Boy, for sure. It'd be good though to hear this in greater context, not just like synced up to an action on the screen, right? But also just a space. Like, how would this perform in a space? Like, if you were to create an environment and put some backing sound effects in there to kind of create the environment in which this character would be using said superpower or whatever. Scoring Twitch clips is a really fun exercise. It's really good. Never heard of Audio Design Desk. Oh, well, holy crap. Yeah, that's what I've been grinding really, really hard on with the rest of the team for the past few years now. and it is absolutely the future of putting sound to screen. And all we do is win awards and make things better, it seems. We're going to have a public version of 2.0 available soon. So, yeah, let me tell you about it. Let me get up on my soapbox for a quick second, huh? HTTPS. Yeah, if you click on this, you can go ahead and get yourself signed up for some early access. We've got multiple different tools and products that are about to be unveiled. A lot are AI powered or in the AI space, but we're doing it all in a very human friendly, human centric way. And I think you kind of get that sense when you start playing around with Audio Design Desk. And you can grab a free 30-day trial of the first version of Audio Design Desk right there. The other thing that I would mention, Drummer Boy, is to bring stuff by a lot, and to submit something in video form, like on Feedback Fridays when we're actually spending some time dedicated to the stuff. Sean Patrick, welcome in. So that way you get a little bit more feedback from other folks too. There are plenty of folks in the community that show up on Fridays that have worked in sync and like sound design for screen for a long time. They'll have really good tips and resources and ideas and whatnot. Yeah, it's good stuff. Keep bringing it back. And when you do drop something for feedback in video format, you can string a few things together. Saffron actually used to do this a fair bit, and I think it's a good way to kind of level up quickly. The other thing I would make mention of is the image prompts channel over here. Although not moving picture, what it does is it gives you something specific to look at while you're creating a space, a certain type of style that you're applying to some kind of effect or action or something that you're designing. And oftentimes, all it really takes is like just an image, right, to start sparking something really cool. But these are like wild and weird and fun. Check out some of those. In regards to the actual sound design on those, I think it's good. I think what I would really like to hear most, besides seeing them like synced up in context in some way with some video, is to hear like a dry and a wet version. If what you're trying to do is sell your sounds, so people can like license them and put them into their projects or whatever, what you don't want is to create it to a really specific environment, right? You want people to be able to place that sound into whatever space makes sense, right? So that sound with that kind of reverberation and timing and everything might work well on its own or for something that you're designing for specifically. But would it actually sound right if put into other people's projects, right? So just kind of considering how it might be used is another thing, right? Because if you're going to process it in a different reverb, for instance, right, with a different size and a different pre-delay and filter control and everything, it's going to sound like it's in a totally different space. And if you're going to sell stuff into video game or anime type stuff, what you really need is the sound as isolated as possible. So then as it is then being implemented into the project, they can use it the same sound in different spaces. So now you have this contiguous experience of this is this person's power, or this is what their weapon sounds like, or this is the charge up sound, and this is what that charge up sound sounds like in these different spaces, right? So something else to consider. Just been building out a library of 800-ish elements right now. Going to pare it down to the best of the best clips so the layers make sense in any configuration. Nice. Nice. Yeah, Zeep. We will be doing it on Friday. You missed yours last week. Dude. What did you bring last week? All right, sign out. Are you here? Let's listen to what you are working on. Drummer Boy, it was all good. The actual sound design stuff is good. Is it all original? And if so, what synths and samplers are your go-tos right now? All right, so this one's from Sign Out. Max Cooper featuring Braids. Sign Out says, I need to mention that this was written in 2014 and knew zero about mixing. Please pardon that aspect and the long intro. I thought it played a purpose at the time. Just wanted to show. Let's check this.
Swirls around my open head for days. Made a place for you to lay. Softest cheeks that rest so lightly. From the side, I can see the
Okay, a few things. This has really stood up well over the past decade. Paul, take care. Um, it's just stood up well. So, taking into consideration what you're saying, like you didn't know squat about mixing or whatever, um, almost makes me appreciate it even more because there's a great deal of control on display. I think that the whole thing feels a little low heavy, like it doesn't need to be quite as biased towards the low end. That said, I also feel like some sort of low, like mid low element that appears a couple of times would feel awesome. Like maybe a somewhat dark bass swell that happens just a couple of times or something like that. Um, I think the minimal intro is fantastic personally, and I don't like, honestly, I don't really like the whole let's hurry up and get to the meat and potatoes kind of um, attitude that a lot of, or that's been kind of influencing or infiltrating production in a lot of circles lately. I think that it's nice to ease into something. I think it's really nice to set mood and really build upon aesthetic and have something other than the meat and potatoes on display, so to speak. So I really like the intro to this one. I think the glitching that you're doing is fantastic. It's all very controlled and it's all very specific. So it's all very satisfying at the pace that it's moving at. At 250, I think the sub kind of got away for a little second. At 305, I'm just loving the soup. Like this is some. I can hear DJ Qbert in here, and like Invisible Scratch Pickles days, and I can hear um some really awesome like early 2010s influence in here. Um, it's good. It's good. I like. There's not a lot. There's not a lot to like go back and revisit here. And I think that it's a really good example of like why maybe we shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like why we shouldn't look at some of the stuff that we've done previously as inferior or inconsequential or um, baby steps or anything else. Like it's all just stuff that fell out of us, right? It's really good stuff. I like it. So I'm going to say I wouldn't really change a lot. I think tightening up some stuff on the low end would help carve out some space for some kind of mid-low element in there once or twice. Help with the clarity, middle. Pretty darn good stuff. Some good soup on me. Siren. Hey, look at this. It kind of turned into like a half a feedback stream today. It's a nice surprise. This one's called Penumbra. Prod Tafa, we might have time for one more. Drop your link in public feedback. It's pretty solid vibes. I think the probably the biggest thing you could do to make this one better, like improve upon it in some way, is to wrangle in the highs and the resonance that is up in those upper frequencies a little bit. Shave off some of the high frequencies with just like a 6 dB per octave high end cut. So it's a really loose curve. I would take out some of those higher frequencies in the reverb channel because they're just really reflective and kind of brash, which ends up being a little distracting from the main course, right? Um, use an EQ to smooth out the highs, just in general. It'll help like foster or help you kind of lean into the haunted vibe you're chasing here. Noise. There is a little bit of noise, but it feels kind of like tape noise to me. And I think that something that might be a little bit better would be like whispers or something that's going to be a little bit more kind of chill inducing. You know what I mean? A little bit more unsettling. And if you've carved out a fair bit of the highs in just the right way, and there's a little less accenting on the mid highs, then something like a whisper would cut through in a really awesome way, right? Because it would be mostly the sibilants that would be coming through, which would make it this kind of obfuscated, did I just hear that kind of effect for the listener. So I think I'd just kind of take stock of the sounds that you're using and whether or not each one is contributing to the greater vibe or if it's actually somehow demanding attention on its own, because most of these things should just kind of blend together in some sort of weird way, which is what makes it all so unsettling, right? You had whispers on 2 out of the 5 tracks in this album. I couldn't make a third one with whispers. Yeah, I hear you. I hear that. I hear that. This is like all said, this is a really good one. It's got this kind of nice metallic quality, and yet it maintains this kind of organic spookiness. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Zeep. Zeep was getting a haircut last time I tried to listen to this thing. For Friday. Do you Friday? Okay. We will skip you for now. Toffa, we're going to listen to you next. Zeep, thanks for letting me know. Toffa's got one called Sultan. Pretty repetitive. Okay, so we'll listen to the first half.
Hey, yo, Tafu.
High school made another hit.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Hey now. Hey now. I know you said to listen to half, but we're going a little more. Okay, so
Hey, yo, Toffa.
High school made another hit.
all right, this is really good, Tafa. I think that there's a few little things that I would add to this. There's not really a whole lot I would recommend taking away. I think that your palette's really good. I think the theme is really, really good. And I think your mixing and everything is pretty spot on. I think you've done something really nice with the groove here in the intro, in that it's what you're withholding. It's the notes that aren't being heard that everybody is grooving to. I like that you're putting on display the offbeat stuff first. I think that at 31 seconds, like that point of transition, a chime sweep might be good. It might kind of bring in this kind of magical kind of thing. And I think that also, like, I would probably put this up higher. I would really like this kind of dusty, sandy, granular, swirly kind of atmosphere in the background. Something to help kind of conjure the mood of being in the desert, perhaps, right? So when you have something like some chimes that kind of hang in the air just a little bit up high with some reverb, at the point of a transition, that it leaves us feeling kind of transcendent, right? Like something is different in this realm, right? Like we've just stepped into something. This vocal chop is super awesome. I really, really dig it. I don't know if you've tuned into White Lotus, or if you want to kind of grab onto this sound that everyone absolutely loves still after a few years. It's the kind of adding a tremolo to the vocal chop as it's being articulated. Might want to A-B that. Might want to put that in the second time through on this and see what you think. I personally think it would sound really good. I think it sounded really good. I think that some flute play up in here in the same moment would also be really nice, like just really nice high, mid-high accenting. 218, some shakers being added in here. They don't have to be big and they don't have to be clunky. I'm not thinking like maracas. I'm thinking like little shakers, maybe even like rice grains or something kind of thin, right? That kind of goes with the kind of reedy kind of feeling of the instruments that's happening there. 244, I think there's an opportunity for like some gold coins, like something metallic, some kind of cling cling, before you get out, to feed on the like little treasure vibe. And Zeep is agreeing with this, just like in the Middle Eastern vibe. On the lean, would definitely lean into it a little bit more. That's what I got for you. This is a solid one, dude. I like it. It's good stuff. Hey, look at that. We're mostly on time. It's 1:03. I've got, stuff I got to attend to, of course. Got to go be like professional and adult and stuff. So let's go raid someone. Let's go see who else is goofing off on Twitch today. Who is up? You guys, we got a feedback stream in 2 days' time. Looks like we're going to kick things off with Zeep Zanthorpe. So be here. Or be square. The Funky Spud? Okay, when was the last time we got to visit the Funky Spud? For those that are not in the know, stick around. Don't avoid. Leave after the raid, not before. This guy plays brass, plays horns, like tuba, trombone, stuff like that. And he's funky. He's great. Seems like a good guy too. Anyway, I'll see you guys on Friday. I appreciate you. I'm going to click this little button over here. Bring your tracks early. Drop them into public feedback to save your spot. It'll probably be another busy Feedback Friday. I'll see you all on the other side. Peace out.